Welcome in, Trust the Profits. We are back. It's the Formula and Riders Up again. We capped the card last week at Fairgrounds and did so well. We said, let's do it again. And what a better weekend and race weekend to be doing it than the Pegasus World Cup at Gulfstream Park. One of the biggest days anywhere all year long. Formula, how you doing?
I'm doing well. I mean, we went into this week looking at Southwest Stakes at Oak Lawn, starting off with that. You guys did a Monday recording. I did a recording today. They're both out there. Go ahead and view those. Please give us the hits on those. We appreciate it. Give us a few likes. And then Pegasus on top of that. This is a huge weekend in racing, especially in the doldrums of winter when you don't get as much. You get a Derby prep race here and there, but now we've got full-blown Pegasus. Cheers. It's exciting.
It really is. And this is a great card. I mean, we thought last week was busy with 12 races, 13 races on the card. You've got 7 stakes races, 3 grade 3s, 2 grade 2s, and a grade 1, capped off that night by the grade 1 $3 million Pegasus World Cup. And hints are inside the screen if you want to look at them early. But with that being said, Foamy, you ready to go?
I think so.
We got a lot to get through, so let's just jump right in here.
Yeah, might as well throw ourselves into this one. And I'll just peel back the curtain a little bit here. I think they released the PPs on this like 2 hours ago. So we did not have a whole lot of time. We looked at it ahead of time, but getting the PPs, seeing what the morning line is, we threw it together pretty quickly, but I'm feeling pretty good about my picks here.
Yeah, I've been working, through PPs for a couple of days, but we didn't have post positions. We didn't have morning line odds and everything. And obviously, when you're picking value picks, that is definitely something you want to look at. So it made me adjust a couple of things as how I was doing it. We'll talk about that as we go through, but let's just jump right in. Race number 1 here. We've got a $94,000 maiden special weight at a mile on the turf for 3-year-olds. And in this race, Sean Patrick Nolan, if you're watching, I am going to go to the 11. Sean will love this pick. It's the Oscar baby, Oscar Performance, up for an Oscar. First-time starter for Chad Brown, gets Tyler Gaffleone up. This horse is working really well. This is a full brother to a horse who had 4 wins and 7 starts. So they bred this dam back to Oscar again, and this one seems to be working just as well as that one. The Oscar babies have been doing great. They always do better on turf, although the Oscars can run just about on any surface out there. And he seems to move his mares forward. I think they like this pairing enough that they bred these 2 again. I just think that this one at a $725,000 purchase for the Chad Brown barn for Speedway Stables, this is a horse that I'm going to take a shot on at a price of 6-1. So my safe pick here is a 6-1 because the Oscars, every time they show up, they just seem to hit the board somewhere. So I'm going to play the horse on top, but I think it's a pretty safe pick to hit the board in this field. Then I'm going to go to the inside for my value pick. This is a horse that I think could definitely respond going to the turf here. And this is the number 2 Ranger Battalion for Bill Mott. Gets Junior Alvarado to ride. This horse did have 1 start back in the summer at Saratoga sprinting on the dirt. Was just okay, or was there early on, and then later on just kind of faded a little bit down the stretch, but has been working okay. I look for this horse to move forward, and I think this is one that definitely stalkers on the inside. This is what I was looking for. Stalkers on the inside are winning 39% of turf routes, and I think this horse, and when I say inside, posts 1 through 3. So I was looking at the 3 horses in the 1, 2, and 3 posts and trying to pick a horse that I think might give me some value, give me a price, and hit the board based on the track profile. This is how it's playing. So I'm going to take the 2 and take a shot with it.
Yeah, that's an interesting play there. And definitely of the 3 horses, he's definitely the most pace forward of the 1 race he's raced already. Definitely hung close to the pace in that one. The 1 horse also kind of interesting if you look at it from that perspective In 2 races, he's been 2 to 3 lengths off, but probably not nearly as close as what you want to play in that scenario.
Yes.
I did not find, outside of the horses that are 13 and above or above 12, I did not find a whole lot of horses with a history here that I wanted to stake a claim on. And I think you're probably about the same. You're taking a chance on the 2 horse there. I get that. Oops, I hit the button there. Sorry about that. I went with 2 firsters here. The first one being Bulldoze. So this is a Todd Pletcher horse, Nyquist sire, and he's got Irad Ortiz on the mount there. Always a little dangerous when you play Irad Ortiz, especially on the firster, but he usually comes to play on Saturday. And when Todd Pletcher's concerned, he doesn't mess around as much, I don't think. So Bulldoze at 4 to 1 is my safe play here. Also, like in that last workout, he had a 47.6 for furlong is a pretty solid bullet workout there. And then I'm going to look just to the left, 1 space there, for interim analysis at 10 to 1. And this is a horse here from Mark Casse. Oh, we got Todd Pletcher on there. It should be Mark Casse's the trainer on this horse. But you do get the other Ortiz brother, and especially on turf, I love Jose Ortiz. He's a guy that just comes out of nowhere on these turf horses. This is a War of Will horse. Not exactly a top sire yet, but starting to improve in my mind. Got a workout of 60.8 on a 5 furlong. Got a good shot here. I think the stars could align on one of these 2 horses. And I do see, I always feel like when I play Gulfstream, that an inordinate amount of firsters, when you get into these maiden special weight races, do end up winning, getting second, getting third. So this, I feel, is like just the right race to be playing off of a couple firsters that you think might have a shot.
Yeah, I don't disagree. And just to let you know, the 11's my top pick. The 2 as my value pick, I actually have 3rd. I have the 6 as my 2nd pick.
Hey,
so right there with you.
Awesome.
Moving on, race number 2. So once again, we've got a $94,000 maiden special weight. This time they're going to go 7 furlongs on the dirt for 3-year-olds. And in this race, once again, we have lots of first-time starters. We have a couple of horses in here that have run, but I looked at the first-time starters, and there's one in here that's got a lot of buzz on the internet. The connections you will recognize right away, but that's the number 5 Disruptor. Irad Ortiz getting up for Todd Pletcher for Rapoli Stables. We've heard all these names before. This horse is just throwing up bullet after bullet. You're hearing lots of things, lots of rumbling about how good the works look in the morning. This horse is going to be a huge favorite. Morning line of 7 to 5. I'd be surprised if we get 4 to 5 on this horse, but looks like much the best in here if everything comes through. $1,150,000 Keeneland sales purchase.
Yeah, for sure. This is going to be an interesting one. I'll let you get to your next horse, and then I'll jump in with my comments.
Sure. And then based on track profile, again, the inside positions 1 through 3 are 46% in dirt sprints. This one seems to be working really well. The gate to wire profile right now, which is another reason I think Disruptor is going to be good. The gate to wire is 55% in dirt sprints.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's really heavy. So I think with the inside and with the speed this one's showing in the morning works, I think we know Fernando Abreu, he can get some horses ready. He hits about 18% first time off the shelf, brings in Nietzsche to ride for him here today. Probably a horse that's going to be forwardly placed, and I like that based on the way the track plays right now at 15 to 1. I'm gonna take a shot on that one underneath.
Beautiful. I like that. So for all the reasons you said, I mean, Disruptor. I mean, on top of everything you said, right? Gun Runner is the sire. Going 7 furlongs, absolutely gate to wire type horse here. Todd Pletcher, Rapoli, Irad getting in there. And this horse laid down a 47-second 4 furlong workout in his last workout. So he is ready to go. If I really wanted to pick for my second horse, the 6, but I can't call that a value play, and I can't pick him over Disruptor. But I really like Jimmy's Dailies. I think it could be a 5-6 finish here. That horse dropped a 46-8 workout recently. I like the way of all the horses that have run so far, the 3 horses we have in this race. I think he's definitely looked the most impressive by far to me. The horse coming in from Vekoma, you got Jose on that one, Brian Lynch. But again, that's not my value play. My value play, I'm going to shift over to Brockton Blaze. So he's run 1 race, didn't look spectacular. We are getting 20 to 1 on this horse right now. But it does come from Ken McPeak. And you've got a Hernandez on this horse here, a BJ Hernandez. We're in a 60-second workout recently. A lot of times that second or third race is when you start to see that improvement, right? So this last race, I can tell he was sitting super far back. He was sitting how many lengths back? I mean, just is sitting a ton of lengths back, 13 lengths back in most parts. So I'm guessing he had trouble. But I also showed that he had closing power, which means he was actually trying to gain that extra ground. I'm guessing he probably had some sort of gait issues or whatnot. But a McPeak horse with BJ Hernandez going his second time out, probably had issues the first time. For 20 to 1, I think you're seeing 20 to 1 because you see poor speed figures here, and this could end up being a much better horse, especially coming from Vekoma, right?
Yes. Yeah, he definitely had trouble in his first start. He had all kinds of trouble getting out of the gate and bumping around and breaking to the inside a little bit. So he could definitely move forward off of that effort for sure. All right. Race number 3 is an optional claiming event, 62,000 non-winners of 2 other than. They're going a mile on the turf for fillies and mares, 4-year-olds and up. And in this race, I've got a horse I really like a lot in here, and that's the number 6 horse. This is Full Nelson for Jose D'Angelo, getting Irad Ortiz up. That last race number in in a stakes race was a really good race at 44 to 1, was just beating a neck at a mile in the 16th. I think this horse should definitely move forward off of that. And with that kind of number, if this horse moves forward, I definitely think that probably runs away with the race a little bit. So if you look at these others in the class in an optional claiming, this horse has just been running in so many stakes races and against much better company, should easily move forward and best these here. The only thing about Irad, I was looking, if you look, Irad rode him in probably his one of his worst finishes that he's had this year. But
was it on a Thursday though? That's probably why.
Exactly. But here's the thing, that and I say that to be funny, but that was in the Grade 3 Transylvania at Keeneland. So that was huge. That was huge company there. So this horse should definitely best this group. For my value play, again, I'm struggling finding a lot of higher value, and here's why. And it's not that I can't find and make cases. I just think that some of these races, they're averaging formula almost 12 horses a race in the entire 13 race card.
Oh yeah.
So these are big fields, and I think these horses that are in the middle, even though I've got a couple of 5 to 1s, I don't think it's any issue that we should get 6 to 1 to 8 to 1 on some of these horses. So we've got a couple in here that I think will be lower odds. So I really like the 10 Skyro in here. For Brian Lynch, Junior Alvarado getting back up. He rode this one last time out. If you look, this horse did have at Prairie Meadows did have a really strong work, 47-4, 4th of 33 for the day. These two connections, when Junior and Lynch hook up, right now at Gulfstream in 9 races, they're 44%, and in all races, they're 36% overall. This is one I would watch. 3 out of 6 in the money at the distance, 2 out of 3 in the exact at Gulfstream. This is a horse for value that I would not leave off my ticket.
Absolutely. And it's that value that I saw in him. I looked at him at 5 to 1, and I thought, 5 to 1, that's borderline value play, borderline safe play. But what you said about the race size, right? I mean, before we're scratching horses, we're up to 16. 4 of those are going to get scratched at least. Right. But because there's 4 there, some may roll in and take those spots. So they're going to fill up at 12 for sure. So I'm looking at a horse that's 5 to 1 and thinking, well, that's low enough to probably be considered a safe play. And for all the reasons you mentioned and more, right? I'm looking at the distance here. We're talking about 8 furlongs, which is kind of like that middle point of, do I pick a closer or do I pick someone close to the pace? And this is a horse that to me is a little bit in the middle. not a pace setter. We've got a few of those in this race. He's one that sits maybe 2 to 3 lengths off, and he's got a bit of closing power down the edge there. Brian Lynch, Junior Alvarado. I think this horse could set up nicely in this race. Also, the speed figures for the race, surface, the distance, the park, everything seemed to set up really well for Skyro. Even though he's only had 1 win in the last 10 races, 3 times in the money. There's some horses that have flashier win numbers. There are horses that have some flashier race value numbers. But overall, I like the times that this horse ran. I like where he positions himself. And he's getting a jockey upgrade, in my opinion, as well. So Skyro was actually my safe play here. For my value pick, I went all the way to the 1. So this is a horse sitting in that 1 slot. You know, we're talking about closers. He's going to be a deep closer. One of the few deep closers, I would say, in this race. This horse is probably going to be 6 lengths off when we're on the back stretch. But he's got a deep close, which I'm looking for a horse that comes over the top. He's sitting in the 1 hole, so he doesn't have to go as far as the rest of them. Mark Cassie, and he's got Velasquez on the mount here. And also, this is a horse that's used to running in higher class. I have him as a significant class drop, the biggest one of the group over the last 5 races. So I think at 10 to 1, it's really hard for me to ignore Can Group in this one. So I've got the 10, Skyro at 5 to 1, and Can Group at 10 to 1. Let's see what happens.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, definitely classy. I mean, this is a horse last year that was in the Lecomte on the Derby Trail before kind of you know, petering out in that race and then kind of taking a different path. But they still kept the horse in graded stakes, and then they dropped down to just regular stakes, ungraded stakes races. I think they're just trying to find a level for this, but that's not a knock on the horse. At this level, there's no reason this horse can't be competitive at 10 to 1.
Absolutely. 2 wins in 10 races, not too shabby either. See what happens.
Absolutely.
Looking forward to seeing Can Group run here.
All right, race 4. So race 4 is going to give us a handicap race, $100,000, a mile and 70 yards on the synthetic for fillies and mares 4-year-olds and up. And, you know, the picks look pretty similar here, Formula. You want to take a shot at it first?
Yeah, I'm not seeing much of a difference at all. I really like Dana's Beauty here. I was going back and forth between Dana's Beauty and Sand and Sea, trying to figure out which one I would pick. They're both very similar in my opinion, but I did end up on Dana's Beauty. Not this time. I've got him as a little bit of a better sire than Liam's Map. No knock on Liam's Map. But Maker and Saez, I think, is a really excellent combo as well. This horse has won 5 times in 10 races, finishing in the money 7 times. Both these horses, I think, are going to challenge each other. But I think that, man, it is tough. But I do think that Dana's Beauty, I think she's going to come out on top of the speed challenge if it comes up. 8 1/3 furlongs here. Be interesting to see how those horses maintain. Both of them had done pretty well so far when getting those speed challenges. And then my next horse here, Charlie's Wish, going out to the 9. Small field, right? Only 10 horses.
Exactly.
Charlie's Wish. This one is getting a little bit closer to the pace last couple of times out. 2 wins in 10 races, 6 times in the money. We got Jose Ortiz, who is, as always, dangerous on the turf. In this case, he's going to be on synthetic. I think he's going to fare just fine here. But this is a horse that's going to be pretty close to the pace. Doesn't lose a whole lot down the stretch, and had a real bullet of a workout recently of 46 2/3 as its most recent workout. So those are my 2 plays here. 12 to 1. I like Charlie's Wish.
Yeah, and much like you, I saw the same thing. I have these horses 7, 9 as my first and third pick, and my second pick is Sand and Sea. And just like you, I went back and forth on the 2 because I like Sand and Sea. But then I looked at how the track is playing, and in these synthetic routes at 2 turns, that speed is not holding as well as the stalkers. And I looked at these 2 horses, and if I look at the 5, I think the 5 needs the lead to win. And although when the horse has tried to rate, but hasn't been able to win off of that, but that's not the same for Dana's Beauty. Dana's Beauty has won just stalking off the pace. So for that reason, I took the 7 over the 5 as my safe pick. I do think that they're both right there, but I think that the stalking plays much better into how the track is playing right now. And that's the same reason that I love Charlie's Wish here at 12-1. Getting Jose Ortiz up on this horse. This is a horse. I think there's a lot of inside speed. It's not just the 5. There are other horses here that are going to want to show some speed. And I think it sets up really well for this horse to come flying in the stretch. Jose is good at that. And like you said, that work on 18 January, 46 and 3/4 furlong. This horse has some late speed. So I think this horse could be flying into a piece of the trifecta here late on Saturday.
Absolutely.
All right, let's move on to race number 5. This is the Turf Sprint, 5 furlongs, 4-year-olds and up. And in this race, we have a horse here that should sound familiar because I gave this out as my top pick last week on the LeCompte card at Fairgrounds. And Nobles, the number 9 horse, scratched out of that race. So scratched out of that race, shows up here on the Pegasus World Cup card. So I just think that this is a horse, as I talked about last week. I won't talk a lot. At this distance, a horse is 2 for 2. If they scratch out and come to run here, I think they come with intent. Same connections, Larry Ravelli and E.T. Baird. The horse is probably going to be low odds, but if I can get 7-2 on Nobles, I will take a lot of that. Okay, so I would love to be able to get 7-2 on that horse. But once again, like we were talking about, with the also eligibles, we've got 15. So we're getting a full field here. We're going to get 12. So I think the money is going to be spread a little bit because there are some really good horses in here. There's a lot of horses that we've heard of. For my value pick, though, I'm going to go to the 6 horse in here, No Nay Hudson. This is a horse that, a familiar name, one we've heard. And this one, for this level has run in, if you look in the last 3 races, a grade 2 and a grade 3. But if there's one thing we know about these turf sprinters, if there's anybody good, this horse has been off since October at Keeneland in an allowance race. And if there's anybody that will get a horse ready to run in a turf sprint, it's Wesley Ward. And Wesley Ward Jr. is getting up on this one. I like Junior on the ride here. These two don't hook up a lot. They have not hooked up at Gulfstream Park, but if you look in 5 races so far on the year, they've won 4 or 5. That's not a bad record.
Not at all.
So No Nay Hudson at 10-1. I like this horse a lot here. Wesley Ward at 10-1 in a turf sprint. Come on. That's free money.
Hard to deny. Yeah, he does show up for these types of races too. He's the jockey where all of a sudden you see that he won a race and he had some incredible value and it was like a ticket to pay $25 on a $2 bet. Like, wait a minute, why did I ignore Junior on this race, right? So you want to talk about Nobles, however you want to say his name. I've got him and Mucho del Oro as being in a little bit of a battle here. I look at them side by side, and they're very close in my opinion. So Mucho del Oro got Antonio Friso and Doug O'Neill coming from Mucho Macho Man, had a great workout recently. I love the race times that this horse has had. That's one of the things that drew me into this horse. The race times that he's had recently have been phenomenal. He's on the inside, so he's got an easier track to get in there, especially on a 5 furlong sprint. I think that could end up playing into his favor here, especially with Nobles being a little bit further out. I can't hate this horse at all. I really like the way it sits out there. Could end up being the pace setter, and that might be all you need in order to win this race. It's a stacked field, too. I mean, I was even looking at Coppola for a while, too, thinking, is Coppola got in here at the 12 hole? But I ended up on Mucho del Oro, and then shifted all the way to the 1 hole for, how do we say this, Johnny Padres.
Yep.
Padres. So he's got a bit of a close in him as well. Sits a little bit further back. But again, if we get into a speed duel, this is one of those horses that at 6-1, I think is going to come in and get a piece. I do like the speed figures that he's been showing up with. 5 times in the money, 3 times for the win. And he's got Irad Ortiz on the mount at the 1 hole. So I feel like that's a bit dangerous here. Irad and Jose D'Angelo hooking up on this horse at 6-1. I didn't go for a big swing here, but I did feel pretty good about these 2 horses.
Yeah, and strong bullet workout at Palm Meadows there back on the 17th, best of 44 for the day. So looks ready to go. Getting Jose on the rail definitely could contend. Moving on, race 6.
And to say something about your None Hudson, right?
Yes.
I took a long look at that horse because he just ran a 58.6 5 furlong workout, and that's a real eye grabber right there. Can't ignore that. That horse could be ready to go.
Yeah, I really like that pick in that race. All right, so in race 6 here, we're back to the synthetic, a mile and 70, $100,000 handicapper race for 4-year-olds and up. And in this race, I'm going to go towards the outside a little bit. And the number 9 horse, Tidal Forces. Look, my safe pick is 12-1. How about that? Safe pick.
Well, you don't see that very often.
No, but here's the thing, and I kept telling myself, I was like, I get one thing in here is I think the horse that might be the favorite when you're looking at the morning line odds is Jerry the Nipper, and if you look at Jerry the Nipper's odds, they're 5-1. Okay, so I don't think they knew who to pick in here. I think this race is wide open, and that is why I'm going to give you 2 12-1 picks in here. And I absolutely love Tidal Forces. Look at this horse on the Gulfstream synthetic, 3 wins out of 3 starts. At this distance, 5 wins out of 6 starts. I mean, this horse doesn't know how to do anything but win at the distance and at Gulfstream. So I like a lot of that. I do think the horse will have to move forward a little bit, but against this field, I don't see any true standouts like we just talked about, and I see that as being totally possible here. This horse, out of the 8 synthetic starts, when we're talking about it, 8 synthetic starts and 5 wins. Yes, this is a little bit of a step up against horses who have been running in some graded stakes races. I get that. They put up better numbers, but that doesn't always tell the story. So I'm gonna take a shot with the 9 here. I really like that horse a lot. And then for my value pick, I'm going to give you another one. Here's Jose on the rail again. Back-to-back races. We find Jose Ortiz inside, this time for Mark Casse on a preservationist, baby. Another one that my friend Sean Patrick Nolan will be very happy about. I'm picking the preservationist. But again, this is a horse, when you look at the races that he has been running in, that these are better races. And again, another one that looks like is going to need a little bit of a move forward, but with so many similar horses. And that's what I kept coming to as I handicapped this race and I looked at it. I just think that this is a well-matched race, and I think it's wide open. So again, when you look at that, I'm going to go back to all of the stats and everything. And on the Tapeta, basically, it's somebody that's just off the pace, 34% winning, and the inside positions 1 through 6, 1 through 3, and 4 through 6 are all about the same. They're both hitting at about 42%. So I wanted somebody inside for a value pick, and I like Jose getting up on this one. I think it's definitely a good move. And this it's just this is another one that's just, I think, ready to roll here.
Awesome. Okay, yeah, so where did I go with this one? Well, you can see I just picked the 2 Chad Brown horses that I like best. Huh? But I agree with you. I mean, I was looking at 6-1 thinking, am I grabbing too much of a reach here? But like you, I look across the board. It's like, well, there's value everywhere. There's not a single 7-2, not a single 3-1, not even a 4-1. So me grabbing Portfolio Company, Tyler Gaffleone and Chad Brown hooking up on artificial surface. Got a little bit of a class drop here. This is a horse that at the distance has some closing potential coming from Kitten's Joy. I think this horse should set up real nicely here. Chad and Tyler, I think it's going to be a good combo. And then Smoke and Tea. So Smoke and Tea is a horse that, okay. So I've got him as having the best win. I know that's one of the things that you like to look at. In the last 10 races, I've got him rated as having the best win and the best class win. 3 wins in 10 races, 6 times in the money. And I feel like every time he's in the money or getting a win is when I'm watching him. So this is a horse that has always done really well for me somehow and always at a value. So Smoke and Tea at a value. We got Chad Brown with Len Franco in the mount here. I mean, this one's wide open. I also wanted to go with the 10 horse of 8. That was another one that I took a long look at. Huge drop in class there. He's got a nice little close on him. Michael Maker and Owen Murphy. I could have gone in so many different directions, but I am locking in on the 2 Chad Brown horses.
Yeah, I think the fact that we're both on 4 different horses just shows how wide open this race is, because I really think it is, and the morning line kind of says that. So this is a race. Take a look. I mean, listen to what we said about our horses, but if you like somebody in this race, jump all over it, because you're going to probably get a good price.
Yeah. Don't be afraid of any horse in this race, because there's value all over the place. If there's a horse you like as well.
Definitely agree. All right, so now we get into the graded stakes races. Race number 7 is the Le Prévoyant Stakes, 1.5 miles on the turf for fillies and mares, 4-year-olds and up. I got Spanish. I don't have the French. Can't help you there. But looks like we landed on the same top pick. We've got the 5 Beautiful Love. So Charlie Appleby and bringing in, as our friend Hombre says, Billy Buick. Bringing in Billy Buick. Billy Baroo.
The LeSabre himself.
But here's the thing, and we've been talking about this for a bit, is that if you look, this horse has been here in the States for a while, because we used to see Charlie Appleby bringing in horses from overseas on these big days, but he's moved horses to be based in the United States now, and he's got a contingent of horses that he trains and runs here in the States, and this is one of them. And look, obviously here the layoff is a question, but this horse is coming out of the Breeders' Cup, the Breeders' Cup filly mare turf, a grade 1, where was 4th, but only beaten by a length to Moira, one of the horses that I absolutely loved last year. And, this is a really strong speed figure in here, a 98 speed figure. Looks much the best. I know a lot of people talk about coming back off of the Breeders' Cup and how you should give everybody a race, and they don't necessarily come back firing, especially off of the long layoff like this. But I've got to take a shot with this horse, because I think this is the class of the race. I love the connections here. You can't go wrong with the Charlie Appleby horse. So I'm going to give you the 5-2 shot on top. For my value pick, again, big fields, and I think this one might float up a little bit. Look, if Tyler Gaffleon rides for anybody on a regular basis that he probably hits more than anyone, that's Brendan Walsh. I think even more so than Todd Pletcher or Chad Brown or anybody else. And I love Forever After All in this race. This is a horse that I think the profile of the race kind of sets up for this horse. There's some inside speed. A few horses in here that are going to want to go out. I think Tyler, who did ride this horse last out and just got beat in a stakes race last month at 1 mile and 3/8. So it's not a huge step up to go the extra 8. And not only that, if you look at what he was doing there, he was closing up to just get beat a neck in here. And I think he's going to relish the extra 1/8 of a mile here. So I'm going to try to catch him and hope for a little bit of a better price, because we have several in this range, this odds range. And I do think we might get a little bit better price than that. But 5 and 10 for me, Formula.
Awesome. Yeah. Whenever I see a race of this distance, this is 12 furlongs. They're not joking around. I always look to see, especially for this distance, who's performed well at anything above 9 furlongs. And I've got the 2 through 5, that those 4 horses in that range, to me, they look like the superfecta to me. So I'm starting with the top one that I had, as you mentioned, Charlie Appleby. If he ships a horse, if he's got it in the U.S., he's got it there for a reason. He's had so much success. He seems to be an insta-bet anytime something comes up. Although I will say, I think over the past maybe 6 months, some of his horses haven't done as well as we would have liked.
Right.
that being said, I think especially in this spot, this is the horse that has the best win, the best class of win. You look up and down. Was it English Channel? This one is. Oh no, Sione. He's got Bill Buick in the mount there. No reason to think that this horse shouldn't be involved somehow. And I'm looking around between 2, 3, and 4 to see who my next horse is. And I think closest to Beautiful Love in terms of success at this distance, I do have the 2 horse. What Love Looks Like, a horse that does sit a little bit closer to the pace than the Appleby horse does, but also doesn't lose a whole lot. And when you're talking about this distance, usually you think of long distance as being purely closers, but it is such a marathon that sometimes even the closers are gassed by the time they get to those last couple furlongs. And the horses that are out in front still just have enough to keep maintaining all the way through. So I think that's probably a pretty good horse there as well. You got John Velasquez, Fletcher. This is the English Channel horse. Sorry, I got the 2 sires confused there. 3 wins in the last 10 races. At 12-1, getting a Fletcher Velasquez Tour Force, I think, is pretty solid value there.
Yeah, and I totally agree with you about all those post positions and how they're all lower odds than the 10 horse, which is why I'm going to call 5-1 value, because I think we do float up there, and we might get 8-1 on this horse. And I really think that he kind of woke up at Gulfstream. That was his first race at Gulfstream last out. He kind of woke up on the Gulfstream turf, and now he's stretching out. I think he's going to love that extra distance. So I'm going to take a shot. And La Mahana, who's in this race, as a lot of these are, just won. And Dylan Davis had to do everything he could to hold on to that win over this horse. So we'll see if we can get that one home for a little bit of a price. But 5 and 10 for me, 5-2 for the formula. Next up, race 8. We're going to the Grade 3 Fred W. Hooper Stakes, a mile on the dirt, 4-year-old and up.
We still don't have a drop for this, by the way. For any time an Oscar Performance horse comes up, and we know we're going to note Sean on this, I've got it in my head to get a drop for an Oscar Performance, and the Oscar goes too. So that's going to happen.
Exactly. So this time we're both on the Oscar baby. So Tumba Roomba. And here are those connections again. So I like them as my value play in the last race, and then they show up as my top play in here. Tyler Gaffleone for Brian Lynch. And, you know, this Oscar Performance baby has already proven what he can do. I mean, and not necessarily a baby, just turned 5. So this horse, look, I will say this. You look at this horse and you look at the lines, and it's like, does this horse just want to finish second? So 7 second place finishes, but I mean, 14 in the money out of 18. And I think it's interesting here, though, that they take blinkers off. So they're going blinkers off here. But I just think that this race sets up really well. Should get a good stalking position, has speed just to the inside as well. So this is one that I look to have the right kind of trip. Has been working well, has a couple of bullets in a row since the last race. So really looks primed and in a really good spot here. I just think that this horse is much the best in here. For my value play, I'm going to go to one of my favorite value trainers. If you're looking for value, find Ian Wilkes on the card because he seems to regularly bring home a long shot. So sometimes even gets the wins, but definitely brings them home more often than not in the money. And I think this horse definitely fits in here. I like the speed figure last out. When you look at that 93 speed figure, this horse was closing up really well at 1 mile and a 16th. Obviously is cutting back by a 16th here, but at the distance does have a 1 3rd place finish. Might want a little bit longer if I'm being completely honest, but getting BJ Hernandez up, he's going to give the horse a good ride. He's been doing really well for Wilkes. When these two hook up, they're hitting at about 18%. And even at only 18%, I mean, almost a break-even ROI at that. But they get some price horses home every now and then. So I'm going to take a shot with the 8 Bourbon Resolve underneath.
Yeah, so for me, Tumba Roomba, that is the definition of a safe play here. I mean, you talk about 9 times in the money out of the last 10. You were saying 7 times in second place even. right? Speed figures are there for this horse. The class is there for this horse. Between him and Northern Flame, they're like the big class drops of this race. So everything is sitting right there always, right behind the winner if he is up there for place. Everything sets up nicely for this horse. I think Tumbarumba is definitely one you have to have in your card here. I'm going over to the 9 horse for my next play, Cape Trafalgar. So Saffie Joseph Jr. He's got Irad Ortiz on this one. Saffie loves Florida, right? So Saffie setting up shop at Gulfstream. He's got a horse here 3 times the winner, 2 times going gate to wire, 6 times in the money in the last 10 races. Sets up really nicely here, as I mentioned before. I think I like where this horse sits on the pace, especially if we're talking about it being a mile. Getting a jockey upgrade to Irad Ortiz doesn't hurt anyone to get Irad on a Saturday. And the horse has been getting closer to the pace. I think Cape Trafalgar from Lord Nelson, a little bit of military history for you there, giving you tremendous value here at 8-1.
Yeah, and I would tell you, Formula, I actually have Cape Trafalgar as my second pick, and at 8-1, Bourbon Resolve is my third pick at 10-1, and I went back and forth as to which one I was going to do my value pick for, so I chose the 8, but I do like Cape Trafalgar here a lot as well.
Yeah, that looks like a good trifecta there, the 5, 8, 9.
I like it. All right, race 9, grade 3, W.L. McKnight Stakes at 1.5 miles, this time on the turf, 4-year-old and up. So another 1.5 mile race here. That's the second one in a row that we're going 1.5 miles to the 2 out of the last 3 races, but the second straight race on the turf to where they're going to do 1.5 miles. So you'll have the benefit of seeing kind of how the track plays a little bit in that first race, but again, if you look here, it seems like this is a theme as of late. We've got the same safe pick and different value picks. And in this race, we're both going towards the outside to the 11 Bold Act. And here's our pair, Billy Buick up for Charlie Appleby again. This one's got a morning line of 2-1. This is another one that's coming off a bit of a layoff, but a really solid pattern of workouts here. Back in the fall, but there's absolutely nothing here lately. And that kind of concerns me a little bit. But honestly, I look at this horse and I just think that this horse is the class of this race. But I'm wondering where the works are, because it's like we're working solidly up to the last race. And then since then, I don't see anything on the tab. And, maybe we just don't have them here. But that's the only thing that would concern me. That this seems to be a little bit of a distance specialist. This is the one who's done 6 times at the 1.5 miles, has 2 wins, a second and a third, so 4 out of 6 in the money. If this horse is ready, I think much the best. But the workout thing kind of concerns me a little bit, so I'm a little leery about that. But you talked about our connections of Saffie and Irad. I'm going to use them as my value play here with the 12 at 6-1. And the interesting thing about this one, Formula, is if you look 2 back, this horse was in a grade 3, which was this level. And then who's in that race? This horse finishes third. Who finished third? This horse finished 4th. And who was in third in front? Gigante. So if you remember last week, I gave that horse out as my top pick, and that horse did win. So he came back to win last week on the Lecomte card. That was my top pick that day, and this is one that is going to be my value pick today. But if you look, it looks like this horse doesn't want to win, and as of late, definitely looks like it hasn't been great. But I'm not looking for a win here, honestly. And I'm just looking for this horse to finish underneath. And we know that Irad does that a lot, to where he gets the horses cranked up and moving late. I'm not sure that that's the best thing with the way the track has been playing as of late for the win. But to me, this horse finishes in the money here.
Yeah. All right. Yeah, so we talked about Bold Act already. If you look at all the numbers on this horse, and I don't think he's run since October. Not a huge concern for me. I don't think that that's a huge layoff for a horse of this caliber, a horse that runs this type of distance. But he looks like easily the best horse at this distance. Like I said last time, I'm looking for the horses here. I'm trying to pigeonhole them into the horses that are best at these 9+ furlong type races, and he's like nailing bullets for me there. So we don't have to go into too much more detail on Bold Act, the 2-1. I'm going to float on over to the 5, Anglophile. I don't know how we're getting 10-1 on this horse because you got a significant class drop here. I've got him as having the best race value, the best class win. I love the times that this horse runs, and he's in the neighborhood at least. After Bold Act, there's what I would consider a significant drop off in terms of how these horses run at this distance or at significant distance. But he's also a little bit of a closer, but not a deep closer. I think he's going to be able to maintain and sustain here. So getting big value out of the last win that he had. I really like Anglophile here. Again, coming from English Channel, got J.D. Castellano and Brian Lynch, the trainer. Give me that.
Yeah, and we've got quite a few in here that are coming off a bit of a layoff, so I'm not as concerned with the layoff on Bold Act, despite the lack of workouts, at least on the tab. All right.
Yeah, and sometimes these distance horses get longer layoffs, right?
Exactly. Race number 10, moving right along, getting close to the big ones here. So we've got the Grade 2 Pegasus World Cup Filly and Mare Turf at 1.16 for fillies and mares 4-year-old and up. And in this race, wow, we've got the exact same top and value pick. So you want to talk first, Brian?
Yeah, I'll go into this. So Sacred Wish, I really dig Sacred Wish here, especially at 9-2, and John Velasquez in the mount. There's a number of triggers I look for. A horse that's getting closer to the pace. Usually that's something I look for in a maiden. Closer to the pace usually means like if they were far back before and now they're like 2 lengths off on the back stretch. But this horse at 8.5 furlongs on turf is getting into that spot where he's like maybe 2 lengths behind, which is a pretty good position if you've got a horse that can push it down that back down the stretch there. Also, I've got him in terms of median lengths from win higher than -1, which means he's right there most of the time. And getting a jockey upgrade as well, having a little bit of closing, and then hitting that best class win of 300K in the last 10. I mean, everything is working in favor of this horse. And he's got John Velasquez on the mount. That seems like a pretty solid combo to me. At 9-2, easily for me, Sacred Wish. And then Minushka.
I think that's it.
Russian. I should know that. Yeah. Brendan Walsh and Tyler Gaffleone, especially on turf, that always seems to work out well. Even in Tyler Gaffleone's rough months, that's often a combination that works well. If you want to talk about a closer, you're looking for a closer on turf, one of those horses that comes on the outside in that wave that passes up everybody. This is the horse right here. I've got him as my best closer, usually sitting about 6 lengths off the pace in the back stretch, but then making it all up on the other end there. Also getting a little bit of he's in the right class here for this race. I was going to say class drop, but not so much. 7 times in the money out of 10. At 10-1, I think you're getting huge value out of it.
Yeah, and I absolutely love the 10 here. The turf routes at here at Gulfstream have been favoring the Stalkers at about 40% win rate. So I think that definitely is where the 10 is going to be. Johnny B is going to have this horse just off the early pace and going to have plenty of speed to run at. And I do like that this horse has had, this is the 3rd time off a layoff. We're going 1 1/16 here. And if you look, the last 2 races have been at 1 mile. I think this is probably a better distance for the horse. Has won 1 time out of 2 at the distance, but 3rd off a layoff, should move forward again. If you look, has went from a 92 to a 96 in the last race out west. Now comes back here east. I just think that this horse is much the best, really primed for a win here. Got a good solid workout back on the 18th of January. Everything points to Sacred Wish for me. I will tell you, in between the 10 and the 7, I do like the 5 Fluffy Socks to fill out the trifecta. So add that one on. Add that one on as well into what we've already talked about. But the one thing I'll say about the 7 is that I think the 7 is a good value play for underneath. And I don't know that the 7's not 3rd behind Sacred Wish and Fluffy Socks in here. but I do think this is a solid value. And the reason that if I don't like the 7 as much to finish second as third is I think that she is just going to be too far back. And I'm not, the closers haven't done as well here in these turf routes. I, maybe Gaffleon gets her a little bit closer. I'm not sure, but if he's got her that far back like she's been in the last couple of races, I definitely think she's coming hard in the stretch and really going to be flying late and going to get a piece. But whether it's second or third, that's to be determined. So think about putting that 7 underneath for sure and whatever you're playing. I don't think she's a win candidate. I wouldn't play her on top, but I do like Sacred Wish a lot here.
Cool.
Just a couple more to go. Race 11 here. We've got the grade 2 inside information. 7 furlongs on the dirt, fillies and mares, 4-year-old and up. And again, we have the same top pick. And I'm actually going to, this is one of those, I just said top pick, and I'm going to say we call it safe pick. And here's the thing. And the reason for that is the safe pick is a horse we think you can pretty much count is going to be in your vertical exotics. As we've talked about for a lot of them, it might is our top pick for a lot of them, but I'm going to flip these two as to which one I think is going to be on top. I love my value pick here. I think Nick Style is a horse that when you look at this horse, just doesn't want to do anything but win. All I do is win, 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 right? Isn't that the way the song goes? I love those
horses. Yeah.
But, 6 lifetime starts, 5 wins in a second. Here at Gulfstream, 2 for 2. Both wins at the distance, 2 for 2. This horse has just really excelled. And getting Junior Alvarado up for Bill Mott, all they do is win together. They're 22% in 55 starts, so that's not a small number. But they're winning at 22% here together at Gulfstream. So I really like this horse. If you look a couple of back, Beat Dazzling Move, 3 back. That was a race where the horse finished second, the only one they didn't win. But look who his second was to, Ways and Means. I mean, we all know who she is. Yeah. And really great horse, and just in front of Sterling Silver in that one. So I think I like Nick Style to win here. Now, the reason that I don't say that's my safe pick and my value pick, because this horse, based on the figures and everything else, may not be the horse that wins. There are a couple others that kind of look better on paper, and that one of those is the 9 Emery. But I'm going to try to play, and I'm going to play this one both ways because I do love the 2 so much. But the 9 looks a little bit safer with the connections and everything. Another reason I like the 2 is the 9, drawing the outside and then coming off a layoff since October, the Keeneland Fall meet where she ran in the grade 2 Raven Run. But I mean, this horse is G1, grade 1 placed in the test back in August. So even though that was on the mud, but this is another one, 6 out of 7 in the exacta. So this is another one. She loves to win, but she comes down here to Florida for the first time. So has yet to run on Gulfstream, draws the outside. The track has kind of been favoring towards the inside. So for those reasons, even though I think it's a safe pick to be in the money, I'm going to try to beat her with Nick Style on top, but I'll back it up and probably box the 2 up.
Interesting. Yeah. I love the take there, and I'm glad you picked Nick Style too, because when I was going back and forth between the safe picks, it was between the 9 and the 2. So I'm very glad you brought up Nick Style. You look at both those horses, and they've got some similarities to them in the fact that, like you said, they both go out there and win. Nick Style, 5 wins in 6 races, and you look at Emery, 5 wins in 7 races. And I almost went with Nick Style as my top play, or as my safe pick, as you might say.
Sure.
Both of them are going to be there. Brad Cox, Tyler Gaffleon. I gave that horse the edge, and I did want to call out the 3. So we've got 2 horses here from Bill Mott. One of them he gives Junior Alvarado. One of them he gives Jose Ortiz. How do you split the difference between the 2 of those guys, right? They're very close, but I look at Jose Ortiz as being maybe a little bit better. And I've got a couple things that I did like about this horse. I like some of the speed figures. I see him as being very similar to Nick Style here, the 12-horse Sterling Silver. A bit more of a closer down the stretch, but also sitting in that space where he's maybe 2 lengths off on the back stretch. could end up being there. And then I'm looking at the value play 12 to 1. If I'm comparing him to Nick Style at 5 to 1, 12 to 1, I had to call up the 3-horse here and say, hey, give this one a nod too, because the 12 to 1 morning line, you're getting tremendous value there.
I agree. This was another race too when I pick a 5 to 1 as value. I mean, you look at the 3 outside horses, 7, 8, and 9. They're 2 to 1, 3 to 1, and 4 to 1. So even though this is 5 to 1, I don't think that holds. I think we get a little better price there because we've got such great horses to the outside.
Yeah, there's 2 Saffy horses in this race. The 7, Mystic Lake, getting 2 to 1 morning line, and I just didn't see it. Neither one of us really called out that horse. I think it's a pace horse. I think it's a pusher, but I also think it's a fade horse. I think there's enough strong horses in here where if that horse shows any inch of fading, he's going to get shuffled back to 4th place. That's my opinion, at least on that.
Yeah, I totally agreed. I just completely I looked at that horse over and over, and I just couldn't get with the horse. So I ended up fading the horse a little bit here. So it's Irad and Saffy. They're definitely taking money, but we're going to play against that one here, and I like that we both landed on Emery.
Yeah, same here.
Okay, the penultimate, the Grade 1 Pegasus World Cup Turf, a 1.125 for 4-year-olds and up. On the green stuff. And in this one, here we are again. Billy Buick, Charlie Appleby, both of us on Nation's Pride. Look, they're in here 3 times, and we both got them as the top pick. Their morning lines. I get it, folks. Believe me, if I could find somebody I liked better, I would like nothing more than tell you that the safe pick is somebody that's 40 to 1. But I think there's a reason that these 3 horses for these connections are in here at the odds they are. He's got strong horses, and this is, to me, is the strongest one of the 3. So this is one of those $1 million races, and nobody brings in, the second string to run in a race like this. So this one's been off since running in Bahrain in November, but does have a few good races here in the States. And if you look, when coming over for the early summer and through the summer there, so had a 3rd place finish in the Grade 2 Man of War at Belmont, and then Saratoga, the Grade 1 Manhattan finished 2nd, and then went and won the Arlington Million. So this is definitely a strong contender here. The numbers say that this horse should be the top pick, and that's why it's my safe pick. I'm just not sure we can beat him here. He's going to be tough. But as a result of that, the formula and I have different value picks, but we're both going to give you a 20 to 1 shot underneath. So if I got to eat chalk up top, how about a 20 to 1 shot underneath? How about we give both of the 20 to 1s in the try?
Oh,
but,
please, yes.
So formula will understand this. If you're a regular to Trust the Prophet, you will understand this. If I'm picking Tyler Gabriel this many times, I got to feel really strongly because he and I don't necessarily end up on the same side of all of my tickets. But so take that as you will and do with it as you will. But look, this one's been off since October, but does have some works here and is looking okay. That last one was a solid work. But the interesting thing about this one is another one that's Grade 1 tested. That was against Carl Spackler back in the Grade 1 Turf Mile at Keeneland, but did get a win last out in a stakes race. I get it. This horse has beat some state breds, and if you look at all those S's on there, a lot of those are state stakes. So this is a huge step up, and I understand that, and that's why this horse is 20 to 1, obviously. But if this horse moves forward and stalks, and that's the winning formula on the track right now. So if you're looking at how the track is playing, the stalkers, and some of them are coming home at a price at Gulfstream, the stalkers are winning. And if you look at these races, look at the PPs. I mean, every one of them. This horse is always in stalking position and closing up at the end. And I just think that the profile fits the race shape and the winning profile right now of how the track is playing. So I just really like this horse a lot. And I like the formulas a little bit too, and I'll let him talk about his.
Yeah, Grand Sonata. So this is when I was talking about Smoke and Tea, and I said there's 2 horses in here that I always feel like I bet them at the right time. Grand Sonata is the other one. And you look at the horse. So the last 10 races, I must just be betting him at the right time because the last 10 races, he's only been in the money 3 times. But based on what you said, I like this horse even more. So Todd Pletcher is now the trainer. And he's got Johnny Velasquez in the mount. Again, we're getting 20 to 1. There are a lot of good 20 to 1s in this race, by the way. I looked across the board and I saw a few other ones that we could check off, some 15 to 1s as well. Valdikov is in here at 15 to 1. But yeah, so this is a horse that traditionally sits like 3 to 4 lengths off the pace, but he's been getting closer. Last race out, I would say he's around the 2 lengths off. Definitely a stalking position. He's got one of the best valued races, best valued wins, best class win of the group here. Speed figures, we're talking about 9 furlongs. Speed figures are pretty solid at that distance. And yeah, in terms of class, I think he actually does really well in class for this group. I think he's not to say he's classing down a bit, but a lot of these horses are, other than Nation's Pride, are classing up, whereas he's sort of used to this level of class. And at 20 to 1, I don't see how that's the case. I don't see how that's 20 to 1. Maybe he's going to come down, but I think you're getting tremendous value there from Grand Sonata.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I said I looked at this horse as well, and I see why you picked this horse. And the one thing that made me pick the 8 over the 11 as my value pick was the fact that Tyler gets off of this one to go to the 8. So I thought that was something to consider. But, you know, when you're looking at this horse, Blinkers Off is a move that for Todd Pletcher you want to watch. He hits about 21% if you look at the figures right now. And I found that this is going to seem really arbitrary, but it's just the way that my numbers play out. 18% is like that threshold that I look at, because be above 18%, you really start to see that be a player. And it doesn't seem like it makes sense, but anything below 18, I don't consider statistically significant. But in a decent sample size like this, when I see 21% in 14 tries, that's a move that you want to watch when a trainer takes it off and is pretty successful with it. Because, I mean, if you look at him overall, 21% we would call a good win rate, right? So yeah, if you're winning at a high win rate with a particular move like Blinkers Off, I like to look at that. So I do like that about the 11 as well. So
yeah,
that helps.
By the way, I'd just like to know, you said Tyler's getting off of this horse, but John Velasquez is getting on this horse.
Yeah, so. Exactly. Absolutely. And I that's why I went back and forth. I'm not saying Johnny V is not better, because I think he is overall a better jockey. It's just that it's interesting that Tyler's been riding it and he chose the other horse, but he may have somebody replacing him that's even better. And here we are. The Grade 1 Pegasus World Cup, a 1 1/8 on the dirt, 4-year-olds and up, the best of the best in Southern Florida, to compete for $3 million in purse money.
That's a huge purse.
And you know who I'm going to. I mean,
I didn't even question it, because I knew the hat would come out. There it is.
You know the hat's coming out. It's got to come out. So, look, here's the thing. I get the way a lot of people are going to see this race. Since Locked came back, Locked is legitimate. I think we have not seen the best of this horse. Okay. And the best is yet to come for Locked. And 5-2 morning line. And then I go inside and I see Saudi Crown, and I get why people are going to be on those. But I'm going to tell you why I ended on White Abarrio. Obviously, yes, I love White Abarrio. It's a horse I've been on for quite a while. Since before the Whitney long before the Whitney and the Breeders' Cup Classic last year. But I don't think that it was a great start in the Mr. Prospector when White Abarrio finished that second and was closing really strongly, but that was not the target. They brought this horse back, so the horse was off for a while, moved back to Sappy Joseph's barn. They brought the horse back in at 7 furlongs and an optional claimer, and did what a horse should do at that level, won by 10 lengths, and then came back in a nice Grade 3. And look, there's nothing against Mufasa. Mufasa is a great horse and legitimately won that race, but it wasn't a great start for White Abarrio. And if you look, Irad wasn't rushing him along at all early on. He did make him run a little bit in the stretch, And he was closing, and I'm telling you that race was at 7 furlongs. If they're going a mile and an 8, he crushes that field. But which is what he wanted, and here we are. So now he's going a mile and an 8. Let me talk about the other two. So Saudi Crown to the inside. Speed is not holding on the dirt at routes. It is not holding. And Saudi Crown is definitely going to be up there on the lead early. Somewhere between Saudi Crown and Skippy Longstockings, you're probably going to find your early race lead. Those two up front. And Speed is not holding. So I do not like Saudi Crown. I'm scared of Locked. I honestly am. I think this could be a super horse, an older horse going forward, and I'm really happy to see that he's back. But I don't like the 11 post. He's going to have to hurry along, and who's to his inside. He doesn't want to get to the lead, but he doesn't want to be far back. And from that far out, the way that it plays with the mile and an 8th and where they start and finish, he's got no room to go to kind of hurry out before they hit the first turn. So I don't like the post position for Locked at all. And I think Locked wants to be closer to the pace, which is where he probably needs to be competitive for the win based on the way that the track is playing. So I just think that those things play against both of those horses. The track is playing against both of them in the way the race shapes up because you have to be just off the pace, which is where I think White Abarrio finds himself. So I love him a lot in this position. I mean, you look at the works, and I've just heard nothing but how good he looks in the morning from people down at Gulfstream. So I like him a lot here. For my value pick, I'm going to go to a horse taking on older horses here for the first time. So new 4-year-old here. Stronghold is one that I did well with last year in the Tour de Force and the Santa Anita Derby. Thank you very much.
Yeah, well done.
But this is a horse that is really running well. And I was at Parks for the Pennsylvania Derby when this horse finished second to Seize the Gray. Actually, if you look, as they hit the stretch, I thought Stronghold was going to win. And then Seize the Gray just came back and just had another gear that nobody thought he had in the stretch and won that race pretty easily. But then they bring Stronghold back in December at Santa Anita in the Malibu. And again, I'm not sure if you look that when you go back and watch that race, I'm not sure it was their intention to win that race as much. Look, not that they were trying to lose, but they didn't want to push the horse to take him out of contention for this one. And look, he threw up a 102 speed figure. So, I mean, so that's no slouch. So I know it's his first time against older horses, but this horse, 9 out of 10 in the exacta. I'm going to try to see if I can get him there again at 10-1 against a really strong field.
You set that race up real nice. Let me see what I can do here. So, I do like Saudi Crown. I think it is no question to me that Skippy Longstocking is going to set the pace here. I think Saudi Crown is going to be rating. I think he might be applying some pressure, and I think he'll have a little bit more down the stretch than a lot of the other horses that are doing the same. I think right next to him, Mixto is probably going to be doing the same. I think Saudi Crown has a bit more, though, a bit more punch. So I've got him as my safe play because I do think he's going to end up maintaining. I probably could have gone the route of White Abarrio, but I knew going into this you were just going to pick White Abarrio, so I wanted to pick Saudi Crown anyway. And I really do like Saudi Crown. I think he's a sensational horse. 4 wins in 10 races, 7 times in the money. So, you know, why doubt that? Median lengths to win, less than or more than -1. Same as the White Abarrio. I mean, these are 2 great horses here. So I wanted to make sure I at least got my plug in for Saudi Crown. But then I am looking to the right of White Abarrio for Croupi. 4th place in the Clark. You know, nothing to write home about, but he was in the money, I think, like 4 or 5 times before that. Been in the money out of the last 10, 7 times, got 3 wins. This horse has been improving slowly. He's got Todd Pletcher, Luis Saez in the mount here. What you said about the pace, there are a number of horses that are going to be sitting on that pace, maybe a number of horses that are going to be pushing that pace, and this is a horse that, just like White Abarrio, is going to be probably like 4 to 5 lengths off the pace early on, depending on how White Abarrio runs. We've seen him run a number of different ways, but lately he's been a little bit more pace back, closing down the stretch at that long distance. Croupi sets up nicely in that way too, and some of the speed figures have been very comparable to White Abarrio. And if I'm looking for value here at 15 to 1, if you're looking at White Abarrio at 3 to 1, Krupe with all the things I just said, comparable speed figures. I know he finished 4th at the Clark, but he's got Curlin in him. He's got that closer in him. Why not put him out there? Maybe he gets a price at 15 to 1 underneath. I definitely don't think he's going to be winning, but I'd like to think that he could be in the money somewhere. So Krupe is my play there. For what you said about Locked, I love this horse, but I look at this field and I see him and I just see green. I think the horse, I still think of him as that 2-year-old. I still think of him as being the horse that we all wanted to see in the Derby, but then he had such a long layoff that I still consider him to be that horse. It is difficult for me to look at him as being the 5 to 2 favorite in this race, especially so far outside, as you talked about, right? And especially when you consider you've got White Abarrio being the BC Classic champion 2 years ago. Or not this past year, but the year before that, right? Saudi Crown and all that he has done. It's hard for me to look at Locked and say, okay, I'm going to put that as my safe play when all these horses are just so accomplished and have proven so much at the G1 level, at the highest G1 level, the super G1s, right? So, yeah, that's how I ended up on Saudi Crown, and that's how I ended up on Krupe.
And look, if Krupe runs the race that he ran in the Whitney against Arthur's Ride, he definitely could be right there. And then if you look the race before that, I mean, he finished within 10 lengths of next. Nobody gets close to that horse.
Unless you're in BC Classic, but that's a different story. Yes,
he's definitely a freak. But yeah, no, I like your pick of Krupe, and I definitely think that that this race in the end could shape up interestingly underneath. But I love White Abarrio here. I just think it's his race to lose. But most of all, it's going to be a great race. It's going to be a great day of racing. 13 good races, full fields. We've gone through them all and given you our thoughts. Formula, any closing remarks before we get out of here?
No, Tim, it's been a blast. We did another long one as always, but we knew this one would be long going into it, 13 races. At least we didn't hit the 2-hour mark. But yeah, we got some huge wins. I think it was race 7. We had the Super. My value play was the winner for $30 in that race. We had the Super, the Exacta, the Trifecta, and those last two were all 3 figures. The Exacta, I think, was $75 or something like that. We had a really successful week, even when you remove all the scratches and everything. So I'm hoping we do that again this week, and hopefully some viewers take a few tips and make more money. We'll see what happens.
Absolutely. So join us in the Cocktail Lounge on Thursdays. Make sure you check out the channel and follow along. We've got the Southwest Stakes for this weekend also covered in detail. We're at Derby time. We got all the prep races coming up. We will have them all. Continue to watch the videos. Remember, here you are. So trust the picks, trust the insight, trust the profit.